Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Thank you very much, Kelvin. Sex therapy, embedded finance, and buying land. Now, on the surface of it, those three things have nothing in common, and they have nothing at all to do with SEO. But don't worry, I haven't lost my marbles. They do have something in common, and they do have something to do with SEO, because they're all subjects that my team have written content about and helped our clients to rank on Google. So does that mean my team are experts in those subjects? No. They know a lot more about them now than they did before, but they're not experts themselves. So how did we do it? Well, we worked with our clients, subject matter experts. I've been working with experts for over 2 decades, first as a journalist, then as a copywriter, and now as an agency owner. And I've seen how over that time, expertise, if anything, has become more important than ever. So why? Why is expertise so important? Well, there's lots of reasons, but this is an SEO conference, so I will talk about the SEO ones. It was about 10 years or so ago that Google started first talking about EAT, which I'm hoping most of you will know means expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And then a little while later, they brought another E along, and yeah, I suppose you could say EEAT, but EEAT will do, and that's the experience one. Now, there's a lot of crossover between these words. You need experience to become an expert. If you've got authority, then people will trust you more. So let's look at how Google likes to define these and what we need to be thinking about. So with experience, we need to be thinking, who are the real people behind this content? Now, I am not an AI naysayer. I don't hate AI, but I will say it's the real people. We're thinking about who are the experts, who are the people who are behind this content. And then you need to think about, okay, what are their expertise? So do they know more than the average person? Now, depending on your audience, your business, who you're speaking to, that audience is going to be more or less expert. So knowing more than them will change. If you think about something, for example, around your money or your life subjects, there's a much higher bar of expertise because you can really affect people's finances or their health. So it will change slightly, but generally speaking, you need to know more than the average person. And then you've got authoritativeness, which is, why should I believe you? Why should I listen to you? And that's something that, again, over 20 years I've seen are becoming more important. When content marketing first started as a thing, people were just asking, what can you tell me? And now they're asking, who are you to tell me? So you need to prove why people should listen to you. And then, can they trust you? So leveraging your subject matter experts is something that can help with all of these things. I would stop here just for a second to say, some people will say, but do you know what, EEAT, it's not a ranking factor, so it doesn't matter, I don't have to think about it. And it's true, it isn't a ranking factor. But what it is it's something that Google's page quality raters will look at in that document that guides them through how do they judge the quality of not just the pages, but the actual websites themselves and the people and brands behind those websites. And they're looking at these factors. And it will help Google to assess whether that content is any good. And that will all feed into the algorithms, because as we all know, SEO changes every 5 minutes. There's always a new update. So if you look at the August 2022 helpful content update, for example, so that was all designed to penalize content that was designed for clicks and not designed for the users. And then a little bit later, just recently in March 2024, we had the improved quality ranking. And that was all about getting rid of that unoriginal content. Again, those cheap tricks that bad SEOs, and I know none of you here are bad SEOs, are just churning out this really terrible content. And again, you can maybe have a quick win occasionally, but in the long term, that's not going to work. And the reason it's going to not work in the long term is simply because Google's job and Google's goal is to make information useful and accessible. So we cannot do the whole quick silver bullet fix and hopefully have a win. We need to be thinking for the long term. So we've talked about why expertise is important. Now let's think about what expertise is. And I would love to speak for my entire 20 minutes about this. This is a subject I can nerd out about, but unfortunately we don't have the time. So I'd like to recommend a couple of really great resources. This book is called Expert by Dr. Roger Kneebone, which is obviously the very best name you could possibly have if you're a surgeon. And that is all about the journey to mastery. So that's how you become an expert. A really fascinating book. And then there's The Business of Expertise by David C. Baker, which I absolutely adore, and I love his podcast as well. And that's about how entrepreneurial experts turn insights into impact. Really great books. So those are dealing with the subject of what expertise is. But for the course of this talk, let's think about what EEAT actually is and see linking it. So an expert is somebody who is a real person, who has real life experience. They are somebody who knows more than the average person. They're somebody who can back up that authority and say why you should believe them. And they're somebody that you can trust, right? So all of us have access to experts. How can we leverage them? Before we get to that, I really want to make this point clear. It isn't a silver bullet. It's not a quick win. Expertise is a positioning strategy, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You can work with the rest of your marketing department on this because actually it has implications beyond SEO, which is really exciting. So it does take a bit of time and investment, but it pays off really, really good dividends across the board. And I also want to talk about where you can find those experts. Now, I would say, generally speaking, the best way to do it is to have your experts in-house. You own that knowledge and information. You can keep hold of it. You can say, this is ours, we own it. But you can also do it externally, and I'll talk about the two different types. So internally, you might have, if you're a consultancy firm, you might have your consultants. If you are a tech company or a SaaS platform, you might have your CTO, or you might have your product leads, who are the people who will know most about that subject. If you're a restaurant, your chefs. So it's not just B2B, B2C, it works as well. Anyone within your business who's got more knowledge than the average person, knowledge that your audience wants, you can draw on that and you can create this amazing content that Google will absolutely love and your audience will love it as well. But you can also do it externally. You can kind of be expertise by association. So you can work with partners, for example. You can feature partners within your content. You can use influencers, and influencers doesn't have to be, girls in bikini on Instagram. It can be anybody who is a key person of influence within your industry, anyone that your audience thinks is important. Remember, it's not about what's influential to you, it's about what's influential to your audience, and that creates that valuable content that they want to read. Even your users can potentially be the experts that can contribute to you creating this EEAT content. So, we've talked about why expertise is important, and we've talked about what expertise is as much as I can have time to do today. Now, how do we leverage them? How do we actually use that expertise and get it from inside the expert's head to something that Google can see? This is the potentially easiest way to do things. I say potentially, I will back this up. Get your experts to create the content for you, right? Nice and easy. I'm going to go through, for each of these different options, I'm going to go through the advantages of these methods, the disadvantages, and then how to do it if you decide to choose this method, a few top tips. So the advantages of these ones: it takes less of your time. Again, do note those brackets in theory. So in theory, if you have a dozen subject matter experts within your business, or you can get hold of a dozen subject matter experts from outside, you can get them to create content. Job done, you don't have to worry about anything. Lovely. That makes it scalable, right? The more experts you have, the more content you can create. You don't have to think too hard about it, and that's wonderful. And hopefully low cost as well. If they're inside your business, you don't have to pay them any extra. You might need to incentivize outside, but hopefully it will be fairly low cost. And this can work, and I have seen it done. However, it is a little bit like herding cats. If any of you have tried to run a content project, if any of you have tried to get a bunch of content creators together to follow a kind of content program, it's not easy, even with professionals. And with people who, with people whose job isn't to do your marketing for you, that's quite tricky. And you're going to have to work really hard to get them working together to do that. Plus also, they're not marketers, right? So you're going to have to think about things like brand tone of voice. Do they understand how to do it? Do they know how to write well? Do they know how to write to length? Are they going to understand how to put those keywords in there? Are they maybe academic? So they're going to be writing in a very academic style. There's a lot of things to think about. That's not their zone of genius. It's yours. So that is the downside of trying to just get the content created for you. However, if you decide to do that, the most important thing you can do first is to sell the benefits. So that's where you speak to your subject matter experts within your business and try and understand what might motivate them. What is it that they want out of it? So, if they want more leads, great, show them how this content is going to get more leads. Maybe they want to raise their personal profile. Great, this could help them raise their personal profile. So think about how you can motivate them and get them on side, because that's going to make it a lot easier when you say to them later, look, here's the content calendar, here's what we need you to do. It may need you need to incentivize them, and especially if it's external ones. So if you're getting, other experts to write for you, you might want to pay them. You might need to give them backlinks. You may even want to do all sorts of things. So some sort of incentive. Again, just think about what's going to motivate them and help you to get them on board properly. Then give them guidelines of some sort. This is not for their sake, it's for your sake, to make your job easier. Think about tone of voice guidelines, guidelines as to length of copy, all those sorts of things that you need. Get those in advance, make sure that they've read them through. Maybe do some training, that can be quite helpful. And that little bit of investment of time and effort that you've done at the beginning will help you further on. For each piece of content, you want to create a really good brief. Right? Even when you're briefing a copywriter, you definitely want to create a good brief. But if you're creating a brief for somebody who doesn't normally do this sort of thing, it needs to be even better. Really specify exactly how many words do you need, exactly how many subheads. Just give them that guidance and you'll get a much better piece of content at the end of it. And finally, you will need to have some sort of content champion in-house, somebody who can coordinate it, get those briefs together, make sure that everyone knows what they're doing. But also just to check it for consistency, make sure it's edited, because no matter how many guidelines you create, unfortunately, people are people, and they're not necessarily going to listen to you. So that is how to do it together. At the other end of the scale is completely doing it yourself and just getting them to sign it off. So one of the things with EEAT content is, for example, if you've got a blog post, having an author byline and a bio, so that we can see, okay, this piece of content about a healthcare subject was written by a doctor, or was at least approved by a doctor. And that's the thing to think about. Can you get somebody to approve your content? So this way can work, and there are some real benefits to it. You get full editorial control. So you know what keywords you want to include. You know what lengths you wanted to get to. You know the title that you want to hit. Brilliant. Nobody else is creating this for you. You're doing it yourself, nice and easy. And you're not reliant on others. So when we're talking about herding cats, no cats to herd, which is really, really useful. That said, unless you are a subject matter expert yourself, there is going to be very little genuine expertise in there, because you've not actually had somebody with years of experience inputting into that particular piece of content. So you will probably go and do some research, which is great. But if you can do the research, then maybe somebody else can do the research as well. So it's a lot easier to replicate. And obviously we're all checking out each other's competitors' websites. So, if you create a piece of content that's going to rank really well, then potentially other people are trying to do the same thing. It's just much harder than actually having that genuine expertise within the content. And you will need more writing resource because obviously you as one person or you as a team, you may not be able to produce all the content you want. So you may need to bring that in some way, whether that's hiring in-house, working with a freelancer or an agency. But it can work really well. And one of the things to think about is to make sure you're developing your research skills. As I said, I come from a journalism background, and we are taught time and again how to do our research and make sure that we have really authoritative citations. So we're not linking to Wikipedia. We've actually got really great sources that we can use. And then also think about drawing on case studies within your business. So the great thing about experts is they have real life stories to tell. You may not have that if you're not working with a subject matter expert, but if you have case studies, at least you can do something and you can include something into your content that has a real life anchor and it's to do with your business. So that's really, really powerful. Finally, and actually, before I get to that, the approving the content, we have used this before and we've worked with clients. We worked with one client within the healthcare space, and we got their visitors to their website up by 300% within 6 months. We didn't have very little, we had maybe a few bullet points from their subject matter experts on our briefs, and that was it. Why this worked though is that it was a B2C audience. The audience had very, very little understanding of the subject. So basically, we could just go out there and do great research. And also the competition was really not very good. So by doing our research, by writing really, really well, and by having it approved by their experts, we could rank, and that worked. But more often than not, we work in a collaborative way. And that's where we bring our skills, or if you have content writers within your organizations, your skills, together with the skills of the subject matter experts. And that is a really perfect blend. By doing that, you make sure that you have those relevant insights, you have those experiences, those anecdotes, just things like having a great analogy that you could only really come up with if you've just been in that industry for a long time. Those things that your experts can bring. And on top of that, you've got all of your understanding of keywords and how long something should be and what else should be included in that content, making it really readable, really interesting and engaging. It does have downsides though. It does take time. So here you have not only the content creator's time, but also the expert also does need to be involved. They need to be involved in the briefings and giving that subject matter expertise to you or to your content creators. Again, you need that writing resource because you haven't got a bunch of experts that are doing the writing for you. And sometimes the approval process can be a little bit challenging. If you've had a subject matter expert sitting there and doing a long briefing with you, then chances are they're going to be a bit nitpicky about the content. But again, you can work through that because the benefits actually, I think, really do outweigh those challenges. So again, in this situation, you're going to need to sell the benefits. You're going to need to get those experts on board. Because even though they won't be spending as much time as they would if they were actually writing the content, they will still need to be involved. You don't want them just not showing up to briefings, not coming along. So definitely selling the benefits is important. Creating pre-briefs is a great way of making sure that when they do come to a briefing session, you have an interview with them, that they're really prepared and know what they want to say. Because the thing about experts is we've got two types of expert. One needs a lot of time to sit and think and ponder. They're the sort of those left brain people. They need to ponder for a while. So if you try and ask them a question, you're going to get a lot of this. And then there's others that will just talk a lot. I'm thinking you can probably identify these people in your own organization. They talk a lot. They go off track. They go down rabbit holes. They never stick to the point. And both of those people can really benefit from a pre-brief. And then develop your interview skills. I'm fortunate. I spent many years doing that as a journalist, and I brought that into my work as a copywriter and an agency owner. And I've raised my team in that same way to have those interview skills. But it's really important, think about open questions, closed questions. Think about how to get the best out of different personality types, because a lot of it's about personality. So, there is so much more I want to say about this subject, as is always the case in a talk. So do have a look at the QR code. The download there, it's an open access, you don't have to put an email address into it. It's not focused specifically around SEO, but it is around building authority and it is around expertise. As I said at the beginning, or near the beginning, that this is a positioning strategy. It's not a quick fix. It's not a way to trick an algorithm. It's a way to really focus on what Google actually wants you to do, which is creating really fantastic content. And your audience is going to love it, and Google's going to love it. And the best thing is that there are loads of added benefits as well. So by helping your experts to articulate what's in their head, many of them are not great communicators, you give them an opportunity to use that even more. So, for example, maybe you can get them doing webinars. Maybe not in the SEO team, but the rest of your marketing team will love this. Maybe they can get interviewed by the press. Maybe they can be on a stage and do a talk. And then you can take that content and you can use it in email campaigns. You can use it on social media. You can use it for ABM. So whether it is sex therapy or embedded finance or buying land, whatever subject you want to rank for, leveraging your subject matter experts is a great way to create EEAT boosting super content and a lot more beside. Thank you ever so much.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Demand Sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.